Every now and again, a video game decides to do one thing, just one thing, really well. The designers pick just one mechanic or one focused gameplay style, one experience they want the player to have, and they work on doing that thing better than anyone else. No extra systems, no bloat, just focused design. And while these games don't appeal to everyone, they strongly appeal to players who want that one thing. If a mechanic doesn't support that one thing, it's not needed. Like how Doom lets you shoot demons. There's no deep story, no upgrade system, no points of interest or audio logs to discover. You just shoot stuff, and it does that really well. Classic games sometimes become classic because they do their central mechanic better than anyone else, and they often end up changing the industry in that specific design area. So what if movement, just the process of navigating a game, was so fun it became the game itself?
Hi, I'm Josh Dreyfus. Now, there have been video games focused on movement before, specifically the original Prince of Persia game, which featured rotoscoped movement for realistic running, jumping, grabbing, and fighting, or indie games like Cluster Truck, but they never quite captured the public's imagination as much as, say, shooting something or driving did. In the past, movement was seen as this necessary evil, this transition period between where the game actually happened, not the game itself. So in 2008, the game development company DICE, best known for the Battlefield series, decided they were going to make a game purely about movement, and it was going to do movement better than any other game before. They wanted to do movement so well, in fact, that movement would be the entire reason to play the game. The process of moving through the level was no longer a transition between gameplay moments, but the gameplay itself. A first-person, parkour-based speed game. And that game was Mirror's Edge. And it did indeed do movement incredibly well. In fact, it had excellent level design, beautiful stylized graphics, smooth and responsive controls, great character animation, and a rather satisfying feeling of speed and fluidity, especially when you managed to actually pull off the crazy parkour idea that you had. It even had a story written by Rhianna Pratchett, daughter of legendary author Terry Pratchett. So why isn't Mirror's Edge more famous, and why didn't it change the industry more than it did? It sold well enough to get a sequel a few years later in Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and those who played the original do speak highly of it, so why didn't this game or this franchise stick around? To find out, I've gone back and replayed the whole thing, from hidden rooftops to damp sewers to climactic shootouts in high-rise offices. I'll critique the movement, the gunplay, the story, and then answer a simple question. Mirror's Edge, was it actually any good? As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon, YouTube, and Twitch who keep the channel alive. More information on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. Nowadays, parkour is probably best known from the 2009 cold opening of The Office Season 6, where Michael and the team roll around on the furniture and then Andy jumps into the box. Lots of people remember parkour as this flash-in-the-pan fad, but it was actually quite popular for several years before that. Cast your mind back to 2003. Over here in the UK, Channel 4 released a documentary called Jump London, which followed 3 urban freerunners, focusing on the French freerunner Sébastien Foucon as they performed the sport of parkour, which was relatively unknown at the time. It was explained parkour was just the process of moving from point A to point B as fast as and as stylishly as possible. It was a combination of running and gymnastics. The documentary was a hit, and suddenly parkour was known about in the UK. Then 2 years later, in 2005, there was a follow-up documentary called Jump Britain, again following Sébastien Foucon, but now including the group Urban Free Flow. Jump Britain travelled around the country and performed parkour on various famous landmarks and obstacles. Now, I loved this documentary as a teenager, and I will never forget the awe-inspiring moment when Sébastien jumps over a gap in the open roof of the Millennium Stadium in Wales. It was an awe-inspiring stunt. It was an incredibly dangerous stunt, and it was done to show off how interesting parkour could be to watch. Watching these athletes at the top of their game performing effectively death-defying stunts, and it worked. The documentary was another huge success. So parkour was popular enough over in the UK and beginning to take hold in America, but it wouldn't hit mainstream appeal until 2006, with the opening scene from the James Bond film Casino Royale. The film opens with James Bond chasing the bad guy through a construction site as they jump over various building materials, climb up still being constructed buildings, and forward roll on the floor. It was an incredibly successful scene of a very well-received film. This was probably the moment the whole parkour thing began to take cultural hold, but here's the most interesting thing about that. That actor in Casino Royale, in that opening scene, that is Sébastien Foucon. The French freerunner who wanted to bring parkour to the masses by doing those two documentaries, Jump London and Jump Britain, succeeded by being cast in a James Bond film.
The same year, games developer DICE, known for the immensely successful Battlefield series, wanted to diversify what they were known for, to step away from just shooting and make a game focused entirely on movement, where movement wasn't just the in-between act of getting around the game from the good bit to the next good bit, but was instead the good bit itself. So that year they announced Mirror's Edge, a first-person parkour game, and they would state it was heavily inspired by the opening chase scene from Casino Royale. In 2007, the game's first few teaser trailers and in-game images came out, and those first few trailers were live-action trailers featuring our old friend Sebastian Foucan. And in 2008, Mirror's Edge released and won Critics' Choice of Best Original Game at E3. It originally released on the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and then a PC port came later in 2009. For this video, I'll be playing the PC port. Levels are exactly the same, but the load times are a lot shorter. However, there is no windowed mode, and if you want to play Mirror's Edge on PC, you will face some bugs, which I will cover later. So boot it up, and the main menu theme is calm and serene, as simple and as elegant as the basic white buildings of the background. White building cityscape, bright red name and logo with trance music. So let's mention this briefly before looking into it more later. Mirror's Edge is dripping with style. Personally, I love when a game goes for recognizable art style over just photorealism, because great style ages like wine, and Mirror's Edge still looks great. The art direction of extremely bold colors, brilliant bright whites, vivid reds, deep oranges, vibrant greens, the color palette is stunning, and it's not just a visual choice either. These colors are mechanical hints too. So we start the game and get the opening cutscene.
Once the city used to pulse with energy, dirty and dangerous, but alive and wonderful. Now, it's something else. The changes came slowly at first. Most didn't realize, or didn't care, and accepted them. They chose a comfortable life. Some didn't. And those who refused to conform were pushed to the sidelines, criminalized. They became our clients. We call ourselves runners. We exist on the edge, between the gloss and the reality. The Mirror's Edge.
Animated and as stylized as the rest of the game. You are Faith, a runner, a courier of contraband information in a futuristic dystopian government-controlled city. The voice acting is decent and the main cast is pretty simple. You've got Faith, Merc, the guy who sits in the control room and gives you instructions through a headset, and Celeste, another runner and a longtime friend of yours. Our first level is training, and while you can skip this level, it's actually a very well-paced, enjoyable tutorial, because not only is it going to give us all the moves we need, but you can complete it in different, more complex ways when you already know what to do, making it a fun thing to replay. First off, it is extremely easy to die. Your biggest enemy is gravity, and while the later levels do have people shooting at you, falling too far is instant death, and when you're blind leaping over buildings, this can happen a lot. So let's look at the gameplay. The world is mostly white, but you'll see certain bits highlighted in red. This is your runner vision, letting you know, hey, use this, it's important. Could be a ramp to jump off, a pipe to climb, a ledge to grab, a door to open. It's a beautifully elegant, in-universe way of drawing the player's attention by using the art style itself, not an arrow or a HUD, because you don't actually have any HUD at all. No health bar, no compass, no ammo count. You only see what Faith sees. The only thing that's non-diegetic, if you will, is the tiny dot in the center of the screen, and this was only added to reduce motion sickness. You can jump, crouch, which becomes a slide if used while moving, or if you crouch at the moment of landing a jump, you'll forward roll, which prevents both fall damage and maintains momentum into the flow state, which we'll look at in a second. You can also perform a quick 180 spin, and that's pretty much it. It feels bare bones, but what sets Mirror's Edge apart is the context-sensitive use of these things and what the game calls the flow state. Running uninterrupted for a short time gets you into the flow state. The screen blurs around the edge and your movements become faster, and now any action you do, you'll do quicker. You'll recover from faster, letting you chain moves together, and chain you will. Run, jump. Press jump at the right time to scramble up a wall faster. Press crouch when landing to roll. Run at an edge to climb up it and grab the top and throw yourself over. Run at a wall at an angle to run along it and then jump off in the middle of the wall run. You can spin around and jump back on yourself to effectively jump from one wall to another. You can swing from bars, climb ladders, climb drain pipes, slide down them, shimmy across ledges, spot stacks of boxes in step formations and use them as springboards to jump even higher, vault over fences or office equipment, grab zip lines, land on giant soft-covered boxes, shoulder barge through doors, smash through glass. Jumping and crouching while in the air pulls your legs up so you can make it over barbed wire fences. You can balance over the dizzying heights on a thin beam, or full-on Jackie Chan this and slide down the angled glass windows of massive buildings. And you'll do all this to the soundtrack of paced techno, footsteps, and Faith's own breathing. It's a game about movement, and that's it. There's no crafting system, no armor, no power-ups, no unlockable moves, no level-up system, no minimap, no stamina bar, no inventory, nothing to divert your attention or focus away from the pure, distilled process of moving through the level.
And that hyper-focus on what the experience specifically is, without any extra or superfluous systems dragging your attention away, is beautiful. Mirror's Edge is a big 3D physics-based puzzle platformer, and when you're in that flow state and your movement is just working and everything you want to happen happens, it's beautiful. The problem is that feeling of power and control is delicate and super easy to lose. Miss a jump, mistime a roll, miss a ledge grab, and you lose everything. You lose all your momentum, and now you're just awkwardly, clunkily scrambling up the side of a building. That lovely, silky smooth flow you had across the level, that's all gone. Landing hard instead of rolling loses all the momentum that you've built up. This means whenever you walk into a new area, you are looking for the lines, the flow, the movement from point A to point B. You're planning out parkour in your mind, working out the best way to get past this part of the puzzle. And this can take a few attempts, but the game only has 11 levels, and each level only takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. Mirror's Edge is an extremely short game, but what it is incredibly replayable because of the sheer variety of ways that you can get through the levels. There are so many viable routes from A to B in every level that you'll be replaying it just to test out whether a theory you have actually works. And because you're not bogged down with all these extra systems that you need to learn, replaying a level means only one thing. Do the one system that you're acquainted with, movement, better. Now, at any point in the level, you can press the guide button, which will quickly pull your vision toward your next objective. No maps or markers, no pausing, just a quick hint of, hey, go over there. These are effectively invisible check marks throughout the level, and while you're lost in an office or pinned down by snipers, it's handy to get that quick reminder of, hey, this way, without breaking the immersion. So how does difficulty work? Because hard mode doesn't change the level layout and there's not that much combat. Well, instead, it removes your runner vision, meaning you no longer see certain objects in red, so now you're relying on your own memory of the level layout and your understanding of the mechanics and hoping they work consistently, which is one of the game's few but very noticeable flaws. Certain surfaces look climbable but aren't, others don't look climbable but are, same with pipes and ledges. Sometimes you'll see jumps and drops which look totally viable but will actually kill you, and then a longer and more damaging jump later is actually totally fine. Mirror's Edge demands mechanical consistency from you as a player. You must jump at the right time and roll at the right time every time, but it doesn't always offer the same consistency back, which can make some deaths feel very unfair. So effectively, Mirror's Edge is an easy to pick up but hard to master movement system about going fast and going smoothly around a futuristic, highly stylized dystopian city. And if that was all it was, it would be brilliant, because those systems, movement, style, and music are good enough to carry the game as an experience by itself. However, I'm going to assume that somebody at DICE pretty high up got cold feet about making a game just about movement and decided they needed to add guns. And gunplay in Mirror's Edge, despite being technically fine on a moment-to-moment level, is unfortunately the exact opposite of what Mirror's Edge is meant to be. It is not smooth, it is not fast, it is clunky, it is slow, it is heavy. And unfortunately, every time you are forced to engage with it, it is the absolute antithesis of what the game is meant to be. It takes away all of the skill and the fun and the flow that the parkour has built up and replaces it with stand still, hide in cover, shoot the bad guys. Indeed, the few times you are forced to engage with the gunplay, it actively harms the pacing of the game.
You've got a basic punch combo or a crouched combo. If you jump, you can kick while in the air or slide and then kick on the ground. You can even wall run, leap off and do a spinning kick, but there aren't that many places to pull this trick off. The enemies you'll be facing are mostly government or private security agents. Punch them enough and they'll die, but make sure you vary your moves, because if you use one move repeatedly, they will notice that, counter you and hit you. Or if you don't want to fight, you can run up to them and wait for them to try and punch you with their guns, and when they do this, you'll see a very brief moment when their gun flashes red. You have to press disarm at this exact moment, which on PC is right click, and if you time it right, you'll take the gun and knock the enemy out. Now to help you do this, you can use slow-mo, a limited resource that you build up by being in the flow state for long periods of time. This basically makes timing the red disarm a lot easier, and it's the only thing slow-mo is used for. If you're lucky enough to sneak up on an enemy, you can also disarm them from behind. Now because combat isn't the focus of the game, you are heavily discouraged from ever engaging enemies, but if you see an enemy highlighted in red, that is the game's way of telling you you will need to go past this enemy. However, you don't need to fight them or disarm them, you just need to get past them. There are only two times in the game where you need to fight. One is a very clunky boss fight, and the other is a light machine gun enemy who will kill you while you're climbing a ladder unless you disarm them first. So we've taken a guard out and got their gun. What now? Well, you've got no HUD and no ammo count, and while carrying a gun, you have no flow state, slower jumps and limited parkour. And that's provided you're carrying a one-handed gun. If you're carrying a heavy machine gun or a shotgun, limited even more so. You can shoot a gun until it's out of ammo, then drop it and pick up another from the floor if you find another one. Now the hand-to-hand martial combat, fine. Basic but fine. Fits the game focus of movement and precision. Even the disarming to a degree kind of works, although it's obvious they've only put the slow-mo mode in because timing the disarms is just way too unforgiving otherwise. My main issue with the gunplay isn't even the feeling of shooting, because DICE know how to make a good feeling shooter. They've made Battlefield. This feels fine. My issue is it's literally always the best thing to do in any situation. Being shot while running or trying to parkour or in the flow state slows you down or knocks you off course. On harder difficulty, it kills you pretty fast. So while the original focus of Mirror's Edge is movement focused, ignore enemies, outrun stuff, if you're ever actually faced with enemies, the best choice is always slow-mo disarm one of them, use their gun to shoot another, drop the first gun, grab the second, repeat, John Wick your way through hordes of armoured up baddies. On hard difficulty, this matters even more. And the problem is, you've taken parkour your way past enemies, which is a fun, unique gameplay loop, and replaced it with shoot the enemies, which is relatively uninteresting. It genuinely feels like they went all in on movement being the focus, effectively trying to make the natural evolution of the 3D platformer, and then someone high up, some executive got cold feet about this, and was worried that people wouldn't play a game purely about movement, so insisted they add gunplay. Mirror's Edge was so close to being a game which did one thing incredibly well, but they just had to add in shooting, which doesn't support the main gameplay loop of speed. Instead, it detracts from it. So now we know what we're getting into mechanics-wise, let's play. Training on the roof. Faith has been recovering from an injury, so needs to get her skills back. That's a lovely narrative justification for the training system. Graphics are lovely, controls are tight, and you are chasing your friend Celeste across the rooftops, being introduced to every mechanic you'll need as you go. Jumping, rolling, climbing, swinging, and zip lines. The sight lines are lovely, and you get to see Celeste do the moves you'll need to do and then have a clear path to follow and copy. But if you want to show off or just test yourself, you can climb the level in different ways. The great thing about this level is they've included advanced possibilities that you won't even notice you can do until you're more familiar with the game. Falling from zip lines does take a few tries, release too late and you'll die, so aim for the big red square. Run, leap, grab ladders, and then a basic combat tutorial, which is just 3 attacks. It never really explains how or what to do when. And when you've done this, you can choose to just stay here a bit, which you will, because the level is a giant loop with loads of jumps you've not found yet, and it's pretty fun to explore. Now, from a narrative point of view, remember this. We have started the game on a roof, in the sun, mostly jumping from high to low, and things are clean. We have 2 people supporting us, our friend Celeste and the radio controller Merc. After this, cue the actual intro movie.
concentrate on some actual work. Get Celeste in position for a handoff. You need to get the delivery to her. She'll be near the communications tower ahead of you.
I love how the cinematic ends with the jump and the level starts with Merc commenting on the jump, which is a great way to tie cutscenes and gameplay together. So it's nice and simple. Find a runner bag and get it to Celeste. Do your job. Nothing world-ending, nothing complex. Lots of objects to play around on and no time limit. And I love this moment where you see red splatters on the wall and think, oh, is it blood? But no, it's just red paint. That's a subversion of violent expectations. The game doesn't need violence to be enjoyable. It's almost a tongue-in-cheek commentary on your expectations of the language of games. Normally red splatters mean blood and that means danger, but here it means paint, because the dangerous thing is the level design.
Now, while most of Mirror's Edge does take place outside, on the roof, in the big open spaces, there are a couple of levels that take place purely inside, which have you climbing up stacks of boxes, climbing rigging, or through vent shafts. And while they're not as grand scale as the outside area, there is a definite satisfaction towards spotting the route through a densely packed interior section. Now, while exploring, you'll also find a runner bag. There are 30 of these hidden throughout the game. The first one is the only one you have to find, all the others are purely optional, and they are hidden in some extremely hard to reach places. The replayability of the game very much leans into the fact that you will not find these on your first playthrough because your skill level simply won't be high enough to reach them.
So I'm playing on PC. The game runs great, but a few issues if you have a multi-monitor setup. First of all, you can't run in windowed mode. One of your monitors will always be the game full screen. You can't even force this in Steam. This means you'll need to minimize or Alt-Tab away if you want to do something else, which leads to a strange bug. While playing, your cursor is locked to the program as you'd expect, but if you Alt-Tab away and then Alt-Tab back, your cursor is now not locked to the game anymore, meaning you can now drift off the game, and if you click on a second monitor while playing, you'll likely crash the game. This makes recording footage or multitasking while playing quite annoying. So we grab the bag and go and meet Celeste, but we're spotted by the local police helicopter, and now we are being chased. Cue the kick-ass music, the flow state, bullets flying, and the adrenaline pounding, because running away from enemies is great. Eventually reach Cell and throw her the bag, but we are pinned down, more enemies, so we escape in the most over-the-top way possible, leaping off the building and hitching a ride hanging off the same helicopter that's chasing us, with a beautiful camera pan around to show Faith's reflection, existing literally on the Mirror's Edge. Great opening, solid gameplay, striking style, so let's talk about Faith.
Now, without getting preachy or political, because I am definitely not the right person to champion that cause, gaming in general and protagonists within gaming are usually Western and usually male. That is just a fact. There are no shortage of games with protagonists that look like me. In fact, in the same year that Mirror's Edge came out, we got another Metal Gear Solid, another Call of Duty, another Devil May Cry, another Gears of War, another Star Wars The Force Unleashed, the new Alone in the Dark, and Dead Space. You can see the pattern with these protagonists. So to take a brand new franchise, which is a risk, focused on movement only, which is another risk, and then to give it an Asian woman as a protagonist is a massive risk. In fact, most businesses would say we're already taking 2 risks on the genre of this game itself, and because parkour is mostly enjoyed by guys, we should make the protagonist a Western male. And if you go back and read message boards of the time, you can see that this choice to cast an Asian female as the main character definitely brought out the dregs of society. But I'm glad they committed to it because I think that Faith Connors is a fantastic bit of character design. Faith Connors is neither infantilized by the game or other characters just because she is a woman, nor is she massively overpowered just to enhance her femininity. She's not a damsel in distress character that needs to be rescued by anyone else, nor is she a Mary Sue shining icon of unearned girl power. She's a capable but still vulnerable athlete who lost her parents in the November riots. Within the context of the game, she's not overly sexualized, and she dresses appropriate for the activities that she's going to be engaging in. I don't think she's the most interesting of protagonists because the story just doesn't do enough to draw you into her life, but in general, she is a totally fine main character.
You'll also notice the symbol of the game is Faith's eye tattoo, which she got to commemorate her first run, and her iconic circuit board tattoo on her arm is a reference to her mother. All in all, solid character design. Back at base, we pick up some radio chatter about a shootout in a government building across town. Now, normally we wouldn't care about this, but Kate, Faith's sister, is mentioned, and she works for the government, so we run over to check. New mechanic, electric fences, and as you approach, a rat runs at the fence and dies, and this does 2 things really nicely. It shows the player the danger of the fence, and it continues the rat theme. because rats pop up a lot. They're scurrying around and sometimes they'll be helping the player learn mechanics like the fence rat, and sometimes they're being shot by snipers like the sewer rat. Sometimes they guide you to hidden bags like the vent rat, but they're always just out of reach and always running, which is a lovely parallel with Faith and the police, although in this case you are the rat, constantly chased, able to traverse the land just ahead of anything scary, often trapped in mazes or vents. The rats aren't presented as bad or unclean, they're just living their life within this massive city, not hurting anyone. Same as you. There's also a secret Easter egg where you can spawn a giant rat to run down the road, and we'll see that later. So avoid the electric fence, make it inside and find Kate. But here's where the plot kicks off. There is a dead guy slumped over the desk, and that guy is Robert Pope, revolutionary activist and old friend of Kate and Faith's parents. Pope was running for mayor. However, he felt he was being followed, so he called in Kate as he trusts her. But then the room went dark and Pope was shot with Kate's gun. It's likely a political rival took him out and Kate is being framed for the murder, and Kate tells us to leave quickly, and if we can, find Lieutenant Miller. They are a good cop and we can trust them. Before we leave, we take a scrap of paper from Pope's desk and it mentions something called Project Icarus. The escape the building section is great. Tightly designed level, well paced, lots of paths to keep the flow state going. It's a playground, it's fun. And it ends with a stunning leap and then slide down the side of the building itself, flinging yourself to a nearby roof and then making your way down to street level.
When in buildings, you'll often need to take the elevator from floor to floor, and this is actually a hidden loading screen, but it's used quite well because while in elevators, you will both hear announcements and be able to read news reports on the scrolling screen, and these reports are often world building. For example, early on you'll see an advert for the New Eden Mall, and then later in the game you'll visit the New Eden Mall. There's even some tongue-in-cheek jokes because one of the reports is, "Are your children committing running, the newest wave of crime?" Signs of running include a fondness for the colour red. So these are both downtime between the action and a nice little bit of world building.
On the ground, we are being chased still, so it's into an open plaza and then into the subway, the constant drone of the helicopter tracking you above. And it ends with a cinematic dive onto a glass roof, and a beautifully framed chopper flies overhead. And now a cool cameo, or at least we think it is. This fellow runner, Krieg, helps us up and then runs off. They have one voice line, but they're not credited anywhere in the game, or on the game's IMDb page. The theory is that Krieg is voiced by and a direct homage to Sebastian Foucan. Now, we don't have many leads, but we do hear about fellow runner Jackknife being linked in some way to Pope, or at least close to the event. So we set off to hunt down Jackknife and see if he knows what's going on. And this level starts with the second of the main gameplay loops, the slow, no pressure puzzle. When you're not being chased, you'll be studying the level design and working out the route through. And these moments of calm, logical downtime contrast nicely with the intense action-packed chase scenes, giving you that moment of peace before the panic. And enjoy the peace while it lasts, because now we're running down a storm drain aqueduct with police snipers after us, and you can see the red laser sights, so avoid them. And I love how the debris and level set dressing is often angled to effectively point you in the correct direction. It's a non-invasive visual hint. Down into the storm drain itself, and now we've got valves which stop deadly steam. I'm not a fan of the valve mechanic because it kills all flow and has you stand dead still and slowly turn a handle. What these valves actually are enemy checks, because if you're being chased or haven't cleared a room, trying to use a valve is a death sentence because you'll be shot while standing still. Descend into the storm drain and a police gunship follows you down, shooting as it goes, and only pulls up when you get so low down it's dangerous for it to be there. Such a great set piece. And now a button with a timed door, but be fast because missing the timing by even a little bit will have you crushed by the door. Inside the main underground aqueduct is a massive room, great sight lines, lots of cover and lots of leaps over height, and now enemy snipers. But if you can sneak up on one and take them out, that's now our sniper. And you've got a basic zoom and one headshot is all it takes, but you can't swing or climb while you're holding a sniper, so shoot, drop, and get back to running. I like the small touch of when you use this zipline, you brace your impact against the wall with your feet. Now, being first person, this means they had to model most of Faith's lower body and all associated animations. And this was actually quite technical for the time. DICE even gave a GDC talk about how they worked on the first person animations. The game has hundreds of unique first-person animations. And as DICE explained, the simple act of jumping to, grabbing and then climbing a ladder has over 40 animations alone. phone, grabbing it from every possible angle, climbing, descending, hanging with one hand, shooting a one-handed weapon, leaping off or falling from. The lighting system was so complex that DICE had to team up with the company Illuminate Labs just to render each level. And it works. I love how you can see the flashlights of the police hunting squad down below as you shimmy across the upper ledge. Mirror's Edge feels like a film. If you're after a more thorough and focused analysis of just the movement of Mirror's Edge, YouTuber Tony has a fantastic video called How Mirror's Edge Perfected Video Game Movement. I'll link it in the video description. Slide down the waterway, leap over some gaps, and here's a nice touch. Emerging from the darkness of the aqueduct back into the light, and your eyes take a second to adjust, and then they take a further few seconds for your runner vision to kick in and important objects to slowly fade into red, like Faith is taking in the new environment and processing the route just like the player. Raise this crane wire up and ride the beams to the top of another storm drain, and then back to being chased. Shotgun police this time, and as fun as the combat can be, as satisfying as it is to shoot an enemy, I'm still of the opinion it detracts from the focus of the game. Because jumping into and out of cover, waiting for your health to recover between shots, just isn't what this game is about. Eventually we spot Jackknife and give chase. A lovely chase sequence, and I love this cheeky moment of almost catching him but the lift doors close and him just waving at you. This cockiness doesn't last, however, as Jackknife makes a jump, the scenery he grabs onto falls, and he knocks himself out on a roof, letting us run around and reach him, taken down by your own arrogance. Jackknife tells us Robert Pope hired a private security firm, and he was working with an ex-wrestler called Ropeburn, but Ropeburn is corrupt. He has ties to surveillance companies, and if Pope became mayor, it would be devastating for those companies, so it's likely that Ropeburn had Pope killed. With this, we go and hunt down Lieutenant Miller, the good cop that Kate mentioned, and we share our information. We ask about Project Icarus, and Miller doesn't know. He does seem decent, and we leave this conversation with,
Kate's the only family I have, Lieutenant. And blues in jail don't last long. She goes down for this, it's a death sentence.
I won't stop you. I owe that much to Kate. But there are plenty of people who'll try, and I can't stop them either. You better learn how to run.
Running is what I do best.
The voice cast is fine for the time, nothing groundbreaking, and unfortunately none of the voice actors would return for the sequel, which isn't quite a sequel, but that's another video. So we set off to find Ropeburn, Pope's corrupt ex-wrestling security officer, leaping from roof to roof, breaking into the building and crawling through vents to eavesdrop. It seems that Ropeburn does know about us and a little about Project Icarus, but we don't hear enough before he leaves the room. However, we can't hang around for long because security are onto us, and this is more of a challenging escape, which makes use of guns really well. You can punch or kick glass panels out before jumping across the gaps, and you need to leap from floor to floor of this office block, but punching the glass slows you down. If you can, however, grab a pistol during your run, you can shoot the glass out before reaching it and leap through straight away, conserving momentum. That is a great way of combining gunplay to enhance parkour, not to slow it down. The lift is broken, so a quick scurry up the inner shaft and then outside onto a nearby building covered in scaffolding, and it's very easy to get turned around and lost here. I love this moment of jump kicking a guy off the scaffolding to the street, and then the most ambitious escape yet as we climb up onto this crane and leap off onto another.
Did you just do what I think you did? God damn it, girl, I just spilled my Joe all over the keyboard.
Hey, can you get a message to Miller? I need to see him again.
Sure.
With that death-defying leap made and extra evidence on Ropeburn, we meet back up with good cop Lieutenant Miller.
I started looking into Ropeburn.
Why?
He's Travis Burfield, Pope's head of security.
You think he killed Pope?
Maybe. He sure as hell set Kate up. Wanted a cop to go down for it, and he wasn't alone. Heard him mention Project Icarus.
Burfield is dangerous, Faith. He's not someone you want to mess with.
He framed my sister.
I'm sorry, Faith.
For what?
For this. I don't want Kate to go down for this either. But we've got private firms muscling in on our districts. Bolstering city security, they call it. They're breathing down our necks, waiting for us to slip up. The only way they might go easy on us and easy on Kate is if I give them...
Me.
Yes.
All I care about is Kate.
And for her sake, I'm gonna let you go. But if you pull a gun on me again, I will kill you.
Right, seems things aren't going the way we expected. We're in over our heads here. Time to get answers directly from Ropeburn. The sunset throws this soft golden blanket of light over everything, and we run into the still being constructed building, and hey look, shadows from the construction lights. That is a lovely touch. A radio update lets us know that our sister Kate is now being taken into police custody, and this building is an absolute labyrinth to climb through, but eventually we do find Ropeburn. Unfortunately, he's having a meeting with Lieutenant Miller. Damn, we should not have trusted him. Head up the stairs and quick time event. You get grabbed, thrown, and attacked. And this, annoyingly, is an instant death bit unless you press disarm at the exact moment Ropeburn swings for you. Now this is extremely jarring because it's going against everything the player knows about cutscenes. So far, every time you've been in a cutscene, you don't want to press any button because you would skip the cutscene and potentially lose important story context. But this is effectively a gameplay cutscene because you need to engage with it or die instantly. But if you do disarm Ropeburn, he almost falls off the building and we ask for information, but before we can interrogate him too much, this happens.
You set up Kate Connors, didn't you?
That little cop? Yeah.
Had to be a cop, right?
I don't mess in politics.
Who killed Hope? You?
No! I hired someone.
Who?
A professional. Meeting him tomorrow, 2 p.m. Atrium in the mall, downtown. You'll recognize him.
Why were you with Miller?
You sure you want to know about that? Pull me up and I'll tell you.
Watch him, Faith.
Try anything in your roadkill.
Sure. Ah!
Shit! Merc, someone's shooting. They got Ropeburn. What the?
Who's about to crash the party, Faith? Get out of there.
It seems Ropeburn knew too much, so we run away as more police come, and the game now includes lots of sections of having to blind run around corners and jump into the unknown just to grab things, down into the subway and along the train tracks. We even dodge incoming trains in both directions, and there's a short puzzle to unlock some doors, but eventually you have to leap over a walkway onto the roof of a moving train. And while standing on it, you have to dodge the low-hanging signs and then jump over the maintenance pipes and duck under the walkways. This is another extremely fun but instant death on a small mistake bit. And one interesting mechanic, because I died on this bit several times and had to keep redoing it, the positions of these signs, pipes and walkways is random. You can't just learn the pattern because it changes every time you try and do it. But eventually the train we're on stops and another is barreling toward us, so we dodge out the tunnel just in time and escape. Before he died, Ropeburn told us he was meeting a contact at the new Eden Mall. Before we go there though, we take a small breather and have a chat with Celeste.
What you're doing now, Faith, is the fastest way to get yourself killed.
They got my sister involved, Cell, and I need to clear her name. I owe her that much. I'll survive. That's what we do.
Survival is overrated. You need to live a little, too.
Hey, you want to come with me tomorrow? Could use the help.
Can't. Drake's got me on a job. Says I've been slacking. Look, I've gotta go.
It's fine. Someone's bound to start shooting at me soon. Get going.
Faith. Take care.
The new Eden Mall should be ahead of you, but watch it. Mayor Callahan's on some kind of campaign drive-about. A few streets away, so there are roadblocks all over the place.
We follow Ropeburn's final lead and head to the new Eden Mall to meet their contact there. So we hop through the underpass up onto the roof and more police, and I think I'm being smart seeing this as a shortcut, but no, that is just death. Drop from one zip line onto another mid-zip, spot Ropeburn's contact, and they are dressed as a cop, but when they see us, they run away, and they run away very well. The mall is another lovely internal playground, vents, stopping fans, dropping from floor to floor, and after escaping, we know that that cop, Ropeburn's contact, was running far too well to be a normal cop. So we pay another visit to our old friend Jackknife, because they are the only runner we know that would have been capable of that kind of escape.
Hey, Faithy. Nice of you to drop by.
With a little bit of persuasion, Ropeburn was pretty chatty. Told me about his meeting with Hope's killer at the mall.
And you're thanking me, right?
But when I got there, guess who was waiting for me?
No idea, Faithy. I just go there for the pretzels.
Bad case of the blues. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?
No, Faithy! It wasn't me! Besides, if I wanted you dead, Don't you think I would have just killed you myself?
You're right. A creep like you couldn't have organized.
Now, don't be like that.
Ropeburn's dead.
I'm impressed.
Wasn't me.
Try not to get yourself killed.
Merc, you can stop pretending not to listen now.
What's up?
Can you do a search on Pirandello Kruger Security?
On it. Why do you ask?
Been seeing their name around. In Ropeburn's
His office and somewhere else.
distinctive logo. Getting anything?
Just what you'd expect. Alarms, fencing, armored cars, private security. Oh, and they secure our world, apparently.
Where are they based?
A few offices around town. Just got a new place down near the docks.
Get me some coordinates.
I'm gonna go check it out.
So that wasn't Jackknife, but this new security firm, Pirandello Kruger, they're worth investigating because they're popping up everywhere. I like how Faith lifts her hands up onto the glass, alternating as you turn away. Again, the animations are spot on. We've learned that Ropeburn's killer has been seen at the shipyard on the deck of a container ship, linked to the Pirandello Kruger security company. So welcome to the Pirandello Kruger packing facility, likely a front for whatever they are working on. Probably the best level in the game in terms of combining an excellent open outside area and tight inside walkways, sightlines, explosive barrels, and available combat. You've got almost every mechanic here, combining and stacking really nicely. This level does, however, highlight how much forced combat interrupts the flow of the game. If you plan a route which involves combat, you must be perfect with your disarm timings, because one mistake and you will die fast. More stacking mechanics by combining a timed steam vent with a jump and swing, and eventually we traverse the inner maintenance tunnels and fall into a secret research lab. And here, we discover more about Project Icarus. It seems the government, and Pirandello Security specifically, rule the city with an iron fist. They control the flow of information. Their biggest problem is us, the runners. So Project Icarus is training a load of police to also be free runners. That's it. Once we discover that, some Project Icarus troops appear and we run, except this time, anywhere you run, they can and will chase you. They also have electro-stun batons, so you should not take them on in hand-to-hand combat.
So the story, it's not the best, and I don't think this is because the story itself is bad. I think because you're trying to cram an epic tale into 4 hours worth of gameplay. You don't really have time to really get to know any of the good guys, the bad guys, or the reasons anyone wants anything. And it's not because Rhianna Pratchett is a bad author. She actually went on to write the next Prince of Persia game and BioShock Infinite. She can write, but Mirror's Edge doesn't play to her style. I like the dystopian vibe of the city. I like Faith's parents' backstory, but this Project Icarus, where they're just training police to run a little bit better, I assumed Project Icarus was going to be a full-on city-wide dystopian surveillance state, not teach the police parkour. But you don't play Mirror's Edge for the story, you play it for the mechanics, and mechanically the introduction of Icarus troops is actually a great idea, because you are now in their training facility, and all the skills that you have come to rely on to help escape from the police are now effectively tested every single time. Seeing an enemy used to be run away and you'll be safe. Now it's run away and keep running or they will catch you eventually. Being chased by enemies who are as capable and as confident as you, instead of just being shot at, switches the dynamic of this game in a lovely way. Because the game is no longer relying on guns to be scary. It's now relying on focus on your movement, because the enemies are focusing on theirs. So Project Icarus, narratively, is a bit of a weak stretch, but mechanically is actually incredibly fun.
We reach the harbour and learn that Ropeburn's killer has been seen on the deck of a nearby ship. We start this level with the only forced stealth section. Sneak onto a truck and wait for it to drive you into the ship's cargo hold and then fight your way through. And this is a hard part because a roof above you limits your vertical movement and there are way more enemies. This is one of the few required fights, otherwise you can't climb this ladder. I love this wall run to an angled vent jump, and they are really pushing the limits of what this parkour system can be. And when you're on the deck, you're running toward a gauntlet of snipers, using the laser sights of their guns as beacons to avoid, staying out of sight, hiding under equipment. And when you do reach the killer, they fight just like you. You'll also notice they have a gun, but don't use it. And this mandatory boss fight kills the flow of the game hard, because you will die here a lot until you learn the system. You need to hit this person 7 times to be able to disarm them. But if you do your 3-punch combo, they will always block the 3rd punch and flip you. And if they flip you 2 or 3 times, you die. If you jump kick, they'll likely block, and if you slide kick, they'll backflip away. Now up to this point, your exposure to the combat system has been use slow-mo to disarm people, or just jump kick repeatedly. You've never never had to worry about combos or blocking. Now you do, and you can't progress until you win this, and you've had no training about how to win. The trick is, when they kick high, you can slide kick low. You can do 2 punches, then crouch, then do 2 more punches, and then slide kick again. As long as you don't do 3 attacks in a row, you're okay. After enough hits, their gun will glow red. Attempt to perform a disarm, and you will fail, but they will run off and the fight will continue. You give chase, and the chase bit is great. Honestly, I would have preferred if the boss fight was just a complicated chase. And eventually, they climb onto a container, and you fight again. And when you do win, you finally unmask the killer.
Cell?
I tried to warn you off. I'm sorry. You've got to learn to let go, Faith. You remember? Like you did with your family. The runners are screwed. Icarus is just the start. And I want to live, Faith, not just survive.
Why Pope?
His campaign was getting unexpected support, but he got stupid. Started making threats to the wrong people. High-up people.
He found out about Icarus, so they had you kill him.
Him or me. Sorry about Kate. Didn't know she was your sis.
Don't ask, Merc, okay?
Heard all I need to hear, kiddo. Listen, Krieg says Kate's just been tried.
Already?
Wonders of the Swift Justice.
This program, huh? They found her guilty, Faith.
Of course they did.
Convoy's taking her off to jail in less than an hour.
So all along, the killer was our best friend, Cell. She's been bought by big surveillance. She killed Robert Pope and set our sister Kate up to take the fall. And now Kate's being taken to prison by police convoy. So our mission is to reach a sniper rifle hidden in a high-rise construction project and disrupt the convoy before it arrives. Now, you don't actually see Cell die, but a hidden bit of dialogue at the end of the game confirms after that explosion on the ship, Cell did indeed die. The route to Kate's police convoy is one of the most dramatic, with the longest and most dangerous wall run sections, more Icarus troops, and then one of my favourite sections, an unbuilt vertical mall. A multi-floor shaft with columns and support beams and scaffolding, and this is one of the best vertical puzzles in the game. And I like how if you step too close to the edge, the camera pans down to show you just how far you're going to fall. This is one of the areas that's the most fun to find the most efficient route. Reach the top, set up the sniper position, and a single well-placed shot to the engine takes out the police convoy. Secret Easter egg here, by the way. If you wait and then shoot the central circle of that distant billboard, a giant rat will run down the street. This is referenced in the next game, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, saying, if you see a giant rat, you're playing the wrong game. So with the convoy disrupted, we run down and meet Kate.
Kate. Kate. Faith? Easy. Effie, I can't believe you've done all this.
You're my sister.
Take this. It's Merc. He's a friend. He'll guide you away from here. I'll lead the Blues away. Come and find you later, okay? Oh, God. Merc!
I couldn't stop them. They took Kate. I got some of the bastards, though.
Where'd they go?
I heard them mention the Shard.
The mayor's place?
Yeah.
Shit, Merc. Let me get someone, a doctor.
Ain't gonna happen, Faith.
I'm sorry, Merc. I'm so sorry.
No sorries. Just don't let them win.
So Project Icarus is in full swing. The government and the private security firms are going after the runners. Cell has betrayed us, Merc is dead, and Kate is on the run, potentially captured again. So we have our final goal. Break into the Shard, the central intelligence building, and get some answers, or at least get some revenge. This is the final level, and it's designed to test you and everything you know. And cleverly, it's the opposite of the opening. Remember how we started on the roof in the sun, mostly jumping from high to low where things are clean and we had two people supporting us, our friend Celeste and Merc? Well, look at us now. We're on the street, we need to go from low to high, things are dirty, and we have no one supporting us. Over the course of the game, your situation has flipped from the start to the end. It's figuratively mirrored. We have a new mechanic here. The door won't open, so we just open a gas valve and the explosion blasts it open, and there's an extremely unforgiving shootout, and then we bump into our old friend, crooked cop Lieutenant Miller.
May have been helped from the Robert Hope murder case. More updates on the hour.
Good work. Checker.
Gonna shoot me too?
No. Right now, you're Kate's best hope.
Weren't these your guys?
No, they're PK's, Pirandella crewmen, private security.
What's going on, Miller?
Hope's murder. Turns out there was a man on the inside.
Ropeburn?
Yes, you were right about him. I tried to get answers myself.
But why Kate?
They needed a CPF cop to look like Pope's killer. No time to explain more. Take this comms unit and head for the roof. It's where they've taken Kate. I'll contact you when it's safe. I'll hold them off. The roof. Go! Now!
So seems he was good after all, and with him covering us we fight our way through an action-packed shootout, going gun to gun, and then we take a trusty elevator but they lock it down, so we climb out the emergency hatch and scale the interior shaft. Just make sure to dodge the other elevator cars because they will kill you. Onto the connected roofs, more snipers, more massive jumps, more electrified fences, and then this battle through the boardroom. The door to the roof is locked, but destroying the 4 computer racks will trigger the emergency safety measures and open everything, so fight, disarm, shoot the scenery, and head to the roof. Honestly, I think it's kind of a shame that the final level focuses more on gunplay than it does on complex parkour, but it's still an enjoyable experience, and when we finally do reach the roof, one final betrayal.
Hello, Faith.
Jack, you couldn't...
Attitudes like that. Well, that's exactly why I could.
Who's behind this?
Let's just say I know who the bigger fish are.
Callahan. Why us? We're no threat.
Classic warfare. Break the lines of communication. Shoot the messengers. Without Pope, and without the runners, your clients. Those who just won't let go of the old city we've cut off. Vulnerable. And this city can clean up the last of its dregs.
So this is just the start.
I prefer to think of it as an end. Still, you did a remarkably good job of coaxing out all those loose ends surrounding Pope's demise. It's why you're still alive. You can't live on the edge all your life, Faith. Sooner or later, you have to jump.
No denying it, that is pretty satisfying. Rather on the nose with the line you have to jump. We started the game leaping to a helicopter and we end it that way too. Jackknife falls to his death, Kate and Faith embrace, and the main menu theme kicks in, but this time it's the full song version. The ending song is called Still Alive, and it's beautiful. Unfortunately, only 3 years later, Portal 2 would have an ending song also called Still Alive, which causes a bit of confusion. And that's Mirror's Edge, a rather short, movement-based, highly stylized parkour game. You can finish the story in about 4 to 5 hours, with each level being between 20 and 30 minutes if you don't speedrun.
But let's be real, speedrunning is exactly why you play this game. It is literally a game about running fast. It is built for the speedrunning community. And after I'd finished replaying this game to get the footage for this video, I went back and replayed every level on hard mode, because finally completing a route that you spot without runner vision, when you're not told, hey, use this jump, climb this ladder, use this drain pipe, finishing a level because you have found the parkour route through it is incredibly satisfying. When the game just flows, it is totally worth it, and replaying does not get boring because you just keep trying different routes. So now we've actually finished Mirror's Edge, both normal and hard mode, we've gone back and experienced it all again, we can answer the simple question: was it actually any good? Mirror's Edge took a risk, choosing to focus on refining a single system, that of fluid movement, into a whole game, and it straddles that line between game and really advanced tech experience. Indeed, reviews at the time said it would be the type of experience that future game design courses would need to use as an example of doing one thing really well, but not quite being confident enough in that one system being strong enough to carry a whole game, so adding in extra systems you think enhances it, which ironically is actually what bogs it down and detracts from the strength of that one system. At only 4 hours, it is very much relying on the player's enjoyment of the system to drive replayability. And replay it you likely will, because the movement system is terrific. Both the flow and choice of paths through the levels, the bold artistic style, the strong use of primary colours, the lighting system, the integrated techno music. Being in the moment when you play Mirror's Edge, running and flowing, is brilliant. However, the story isn't paced well enough or given long enough to really be emotionally engaging, and the forced combat sections go so against the core focus of the game they actively harm it. Being forced to step away from the game's strength, the mechanical movement, to either engage with a narrative you're not fully invested in or to just shoot something isn't good. No one says, oh my god, Mirror's Edge, I remember that game, I loved the bit where you got to shoot the guns. Ultimately, it is still a game worth playing just to see what kind of experience a single great system can give a player, and also how diluting that system with tacked on, less fleshed out systems can harm it. So to end the review, I will award Mirror's Edge,
You better learn how to run.
Running is what I do best.
out of 10. Cheers for watching. Another massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and our Discord. And as usual, remember,
You can't live on the edge all your life, Faith! Sooner or later, you have to jump!